Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today at NASA Wallops Flight Facility for the official opening of Launch Complex 2, Rocket Lab's first launch site on U.S. soil. Construction began on Launch Complex 2 in February, so to be here less than 1 year later to celebrate the opening of the pad is a proud moment for the Rocket Lab team. My name is Kim Reed. I'm the External Relations Manager for Virginia Space. Today, you're going to hear about Launch Complex 2, what it means for Rocket Lab, and even more importantly, what it means for small satellite launch customers in America. Speaking on today's panel, we have Peter Beck, the founder and CEO of Rocket Lab. We are joined also by Dave Pierce, the director of NASA Wallops Flight Facility. Dale Nash, the CEO and Colonel Megan Thrush, Program Element Monitor, Space Launch and Control in Space Programs, Office of the Assistant Secretary for Acquisition of the United States Air Force. It's a very long title. Dale Nash, CEO and Executive Director of the Virginia Commercial Space Flight Authority. And last but not least, Sean DeMello, the Vice President of Rocket Lab. Vice President of Launch for Rocket Lab. So following the discussion today, we will have some questions from audience members in the room. And now it's time to open the floor for our first speaker, Rocket Lab's founder and CEO, Peter Beck.
Thanks very much, Kim. Thank you very much for all being here today and tuning in at home on the live stream. It's an incredibly exciting day here for the whole team at Rocket Lab, but also for our partners at NASA, Virginia Space, the Virginia State and the US Air Force. In early 2018, we started looking around America to create Rocket Lab's first launch pad on US soil. It was a very rigorous process, and it seems such a short time ago that we sat here and announced that we'd be building something in Wallops. Today, just 10 months after we started construction on Launch Site 2, we're proud to call Wallops Island in Virginia a home. We're very proud to deliver a new launch capability to the United States. We're very proud to support US missions with the US launch vehicle on US soil. And I really can't express my gratitude enough for all of the teams that have made Launch Complex 2 possible. Their tireless dedication and support and hard work from Virginia Space, NASA, the state of Virginia, and also the Air Force has just been impressive and incredible. And we're really thrilled to embark on the next chapter here where we put a vehicle on the pad and start launching. It really has been a monumental effort by so many people, and I want to give my personal thanks to every single person who's worked on this project. I think we hold the record, this team holds the record for the fastest ever launch pad build. It's just been incredible. I also want to thank the Rocket Lab team here at Launch Complex 2, more specifically Sean DeMello at the end. After we finished building Launch Complex 1, Sean and I sat down and said, let's never do that again. Building a launch pad is an incredibly, I think most people don't realize how complex launch pads are, but Sean, you've built another one, this time even faster and better than the first one, so congratulations. We've also worked with more than 1,000 suppliers of local suppliers here in Virginia and across the United States to make this launch pad a reality. And thank you for your continued support and working so hard to establish Electron's new home. As mentioned, Rocket Lab already operates Launch Complex 1. We've had 10 Electron launches from that site. This year, Electron was the 4th most frequently launched vehicle in the world. It has a flawless launch record to date, and we've delivered over 47 satellites to orbit so far. So we're really excited to increase this cadence and this history here at LC2. Launch Complex 2 delivers a new capability to the nation and represents a new era of frequent and reliable launch and responsive launch to the United States. Responsive launch is often discussed, but with this new capability open today, LC2 is here now, ready to support responsive and government launches and also for the national security community. Historically, small satellite operators have been forced to choose between infeasibly high costs of dedicated launch vehicles or accepting the limitations of rideshare as a secondary payload. This is no longer, and we look forward to supporting this out of LC2. And it's against this backdrop that I'm really proud to confirm the first Electron to lift off from Launch Complex 2 will indeed be a dedicated mission for the United States Air Force Space Test Program. So early next year, we'll be launching a payload for the Space Test Program, and it's just an incredible honour to be able to do that. We're very, very humbled to have such a prestigious first customer, and I'd like to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to Lieutenant Colonel Thrush. Thank you, ma'am. And also Colonel Bonjovi, who couldn't join us today. We've really enjoyed working with the whole team, and we really, really appreciate your support. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to David Pierce from NASA to say a few words.
Thank you, Peter. And thanks to all of you for being here today as we celebrate Rocket Lab's most recent investment here at Wallops Flight Facility. This is an exciting time for all of us who are devoted to aerospace and exploration, especially the Rocket Lab, Virginia Space, and NASA team located here at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center's Wallops Flight Facility. You only need to see the news a little bit these days to be aware of all the exciting things that are going on at Wallops right now. Wallops has a long history of providing responsive access to space, and as Wallops enters its 75th year, our culture of rapid, low-cost, nimble service excellence to the nation has stayed at our very core. NASA Wallops has partnered with Virginia Space and supported commercial launch activities for nearly 30 years, including many national defense orbital launch missions from Wallops Island. Wallops today is a unique, one-of-a-kind national asset, home to NASA, DoD, to NOAA, to the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, managed by Dale Nash and Virginia Space, and now our newest member of the family, Rocket Lab, enabling commercial new space activities from Wallops that will take us well into the future. As one of only 4 major launch ranges in the United States, Wallops Launch Range is an essential platform for commercial launch activities in the United States, and partnerships between NASA, Wallops, Virginia Space, and Rocket Lab are an exemplary model of public-private partnerships. We are very proud to partner with Virginia Space over these years, and we look forward to working for many years to come with you, Peter. Goddard is leveraging all of its space technology and launch range investments to enable access to space using the emerging commercial nano-launch capability, what we call venture class capabilities, such as Rocket Lab's new Electron launch vehicle and its Proton. Wallops is also strategically working with our DoD partners to exploit the growing capabilities of these small launch vehicles as well as small spacecraft as a new tool to power innovation, while also reducing the risk and cost of technology infusion into larger national missions. The realization of Rocket Lab, along with our Air Force customer, is the perfect culmination of all of those dreams and all the hard work here at Wallops over very many years in support of both DoD and New Space. The completion of Launch Complex 2 and Rocket Lab conducting launches from Wallops beginning next year provides an excellent platform for support of space access from Wallops for the nation. Finally, as we are literally on the brink of a new era of space exploration at NASA, as we go forward to the moon and land the first woman and the next man on the south pole of the moon by 2024, all I can say is we expect Rocket Lab and Wallops to play a critical role in maturing technologies to help ensure we get to the moon safely. As you know, Secretary Valentine, we are so honored to have your presence with us here today, along with the other representatives of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we are very grateful for your strong support, as well as the rest of the delegation and the governors. Thank you, and we are so proud to partner with Virginia Space and Rocket Lab at Wallops from the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport. NASA Wallops welcomes Rocket Lab, and we look forward eagerly to your first launch here at Wallops. Thanks again to everyone for being here.
Thank you, sir. Senator Lewis, Secretary Valentine, Director Nash, Director Pierce, Brigadier General Butow, Mr. Beck, other distinguished guests, and all space launch enthusiasts, I'm honored to be here today. On behalf of the Space and Missile Systems Center team, I am privileged to witness this momentous occasion. This is an exciting time in space launch, and today is no exception. The activation of Launch Complex 2 as Rocket Lab's first U.S. launch site strengthens the small launch market and brings forth new opportunities. SMC is the U.S. Air Force's Center of Acquisition Excellence for procuring and developing military space systems. SMC's launch enterprise encompasses the National Security Space Launch Program, or NSSL, and the Rocket Systems Launch Program, or RSLP. The NSSL program delivered its 78th consecutive national security space payload successfully to orbit last August with the Delta IV GPS-3 launch. Our small launch division has been incredibly successful too. They've had 717 successful orbital, suborbital, and target launches since their inception in 1963. The exciting partnership between SMC Small Launch Prototyping and the Department of Defense's Space Test Program helps provide increased spaceflight opportunities for DoD experiments, while at the same time providing data to help establish emerging launch companies as future launch service providers. STP satellites are mostly experiment-based versus high-value national security satellites, which gives the DoD the opportunity to learn more quickly, test more aggressively, and pioneer new frontiers. STP missions are therefore the ideal first DoD payloads for new launch providers and new launch vehicles. Rocket Lab already has a record of success launching Air Force missions. As Mr. Beck just mentioned, the first launch from Launch Complex 2 is the second Air Force mission with Rocket Lab and is a follow-on to STP-27RD that flew out of their Launch Complex 1 at Mahia, New Zealand on May 5, 2019. That launch was on Rocket Lab's 6th Electron rocket, and it inserted 3 DoD research and development satellites into low Earth orbit with extraordinary precision. We look forward to Rocket Lab continuing RSLP's outstanding record right here with STP-27RM this spring. Rocket Lab's Electron rocket will launch a single R&D microsat called Monolith. Monolith is an Air Force research laboratory program designed to explore the application of small satellites for DoD programs. Specifically, Monolith will determine the ability of small bus sizes to support large aperture space weather payloads. We are also excited about the investments being made here at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport here on Wallops Island. The STP-27RM mission will be one of the first launches supported by Mars's world-class payload processing facility. Mars is also beginning construction on an integration and control facility tailored to Rocket Lab's needs that will act as their launch control center and enable simultaneous processing of multiple Electron rockets to support future missions. We also appreciate Congress's continued support of this spaceport to provide opportunities for the launch community to flourish and complement our Eastern and Western range capabilities. Small launch is quickly becoming a hotbed for innovation and responsiveness. Due to increased creativity, additive manufacturing advances, and venture capital investments, commercial launch has demonstrated the ability to rapidly contract and reconstitute on-orbit capability. We want to harvest that innovation and responsiveness to support emerging military needs. Therefore, SMC is working with new small launch companies like Rocket Lab to demonstrate responsive launch. The Rapid Agile Launch Initiative, or RALI, was established in 2017 with the purpose of procuring emerging commercial small launch vehicles to deliver R&D payloads to space. Using RALI, Rocket Lab was awarded the STP-27RD mission. RALI is a shining example of SMC's drive to innovate and partner across the enterprise faster than ever before. Our novel acquisition approaches are allowing us to operate in this dynamic launch industry. The Air Force is building on the success of the RALI missions to provide agile and responsive contracting vehicles to quickly award launch services for small satellite missions. For example, RSLP recently awarded the Orbital Services Program 4 Indefinite Delivery, Indefinite Quantity contract to provide small launch capabilities of greater than 400 pounds to orbit in 12 to 24 months. Rocket Lab was one of those 8 vendors chosen for that contract. We prefer to rapidly move out with our more risk-tolerant payloads than risk our nation's most expensive and critical national security space assets. RSLP initiatives afford us that opportunity to seek out new innovations in space launch with the intent of applying proven advancements to other space launch areas. With the rising demand for small launch, we believe the RSLP team's relevance will only grow. I am incredibly proud of the Space and Missile Systems Center's record of acquisition and launch successes and of our continued support to our nation. Congratulations to Rocket Lab on activating Launch Complex 2, and I wish them the best of luck. I also commend Mars and NASA for adding capability to this spaceport and increasing our nation's assured access to space. Thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you. Is this on? Okay. Sometimes you can't hear it. Thank you, Colonel Thrush. And we are very pleased to be part of a continuing Air Force launch efforts out of here. Extremely pleased to come off with the first Rocket Lab launch being an Air Force launch. It was a short time ago, October 17th, 2018, we were sitting up here and announcing that that Rocket Lab had selected us, and then we went on to say we were going to build the launch pad in 2019 and be ready at the end of the year. And I saw a lot of looks of disbelief, beginning with the press, and then some very serious looks of disbelief from the Mars employees and the Rocket Lab employees, believing that we were serious about this, and the NASA folks sort of in the background saying, I'm not sure we're going to get there from an environmental point of view, but we have. And we started off with the siting that fell in existing environmental plans they have here. So that went from a many-month process to a 30-day process. FAA worked with us, said you're well within your license. The commodities are very similar to what we have experience with, and we have moved out. And not the least of looks of disbelief was Secretary Valentine when she said, you need the Transportation Opportunity Fund how quick? So, but she delivered it, the $5 million transportation fund, the day of the announcement. So she said we beat a land speed record on that. So a lot of things have gone into this. We have a lot of experience, not all good, but a lot of experience with liquid fuel pads and building them and repairing. The LC-1 is a great pathfinder, but the Rocket Lab people also knew several things they wanted to do to improve the second time around. And we have continued to improve and enhance as we go along and have built a remarkable pad. The launch mount itself, we put together a schedule and said it would arrive in September. It actually showed up 28th of October with excellent partners like Steel America, BRPH. We have an incredible team of contractors we've worked with since about 2010, 60 or so that we have continued to use throughout the launch pads, the payload processing facility, and they all just rolled right into the LC-2, and it's been an incredible effort. From the time we announced it, the teamwork between the Rocket Lab people, the Mars people, the NASA people, and all our contractors started almost immediately. So that's 2 continents, 3 time zones. New Zealand is 18 hours ahead of us. Los Angeles is 3 hours behind us. Sometimes you wonder how anyone gets any sleep, because as we're finishing up, they're getting up. And we keep the communications going and work through an incredible amount of technical challenges and problems and solve things, and have been able to work that from one area to another. Again, 2 continents and multiple time zones, and our contractors throughout. We have a world-class facility here, very clean, designed for speed. From the beginning, we said, let's figure out how we can enhance this. The launch mount itself in New Zealand will roll. Here it doesn't. The rocket will roll on, roll off. The integration control facility where they will process the rockets is built so that you never have to lift the rocket. It can roll from the processing into the trailer that you'll see. Go to the launch pad, stand up. I have some impressive statistics here, but there's a lot of concrete and a lot of piles. 163 piles were installed. We drove our first piles in the ground in February. So think about that. February, and here we are in December, so we're driving piles. And like Peter said, if we're not a world's record, I know we're a U.S. record for building the launch pad, and I suspect a world's record. It is smaller than Launch Pad A, but it's really not any less complex. You got a lot of complexity into the systems. We've got the systems just about ready. We are beginning systems checkout already, but those of you who are familiar with liquid fuel, we are going to go into the cryo shock, meaning we will chill the system down beginning with liquid nitrogen next week. You learn a lot there. You learn what works, what doesn't, hopefully not many things that don't. You learn how much the system shrinks and how you begin to put the system in a configuration where it can flex and be ready to go forward. For those of you who may not know, we are part of transportation in Virginia, and I have the privilege to administratively answer to Secretary Valentine Transportation, and Virginia is very much a multimodal state, and they include space as part of that. Everyone knows there's plenty of freeways here, there's ports, there's rails, there's aviation, but we get treated very well. Thank you, Secretary Valentine, and got a great board. Jeff Bingham, my chair here. We have an independent board that we operate to, longtime space person with a lot of experience in the U.S. Senate. So that it just all helps us work together here as a team, a NASA team supporting a Rocket Lab team, very familiar with DoD, and pleased to be part of this team. And I think you'll be very impressed with what you see out there. I continue to be impressed. I'll leave it and come back 2 days later, and it continues to impress me how much progress has been made. So with that, let me turn it over to our prime architect and the one who will tell us when we're headed the wrong direction or encourage us when we're headed the right direction, Mr. Sean DeMello.
Thank you, Dale. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you and your team. So with Launch Complex 2 officially in operation today, I wanted to share some updates as to what to expect in the coming months and in the next year. Construction of the pad, as Dale has mentioned, is now complete, and our focus shifts towards pre-launch performance testing and checkouts. Work also continues on the Integration and Control Facility, or known as the ICF, within the Wallops Research Park. This facility is going to be key to enabling our rapid and responsive launch capability here out of Launch Complex 2. The ICF, like Colonel Thrush mentioned, will house multiple Electron launch vehicles for integration. It will also be the home to a launch control center and multiple payload processing facilities. Amongst that, we'll also have office space for our staff here locally as well. We will then be able to have Electrons on standby, truly ready for the call to orbit on a short and responsive notice. Now that we're also moving into operations, the team at LC2 will begin to grow, and we expect to get to the size of about 30. We expect to grow in areas of engineering, safety, logistics, administration, all here done locally at Wallops. These roles are a part of a wider recruitment effort in 2020 as we look to add about 80 staff to our US team. So to echo Pete's comments and sentiments today, I'm incredibly thankful to NASA, Virginia Space, the Air Force, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and our multitude of contractors and suppliers that have stood by us this whole journey. To be opening the site just 10 months after we drove our first piles into the ground is a testament to the dedication and drive of these teams. Dale and Sean from Virginia Space, I personally thank you for always being available, whether it's on Eastern time or New Zealand time. You guys have made it work. I think our teams have done an incredible job. We've learned a lot along the way, and this is why we chose to partner with you in the first place. I must also say that I can't think of a more competent set of engineers that can convert between millimeters and inches any quicker than I've seen in the last few months. Near and dear to me, I'd like to thank the Rocket Lab team, Aaron Kuipers, who's been our LC2 program manager, the boots on the ground, the many engineers and technicians that have spent significant time away from home to make this pad build a reality. And finally, to the people of the Eastern Shore, I thank you for your warm welcome, your hospitality. I'll admit that Old Bay seasoning is now an important detail in my diet. And in closing, I think as our focus shifts to the first launch out of Launch Complex 2 for the U.S. Air Force Space Test Program, I'm excited and I'm looking forward to continuing this amazing teamwork and collaboration with all our partners. Thanks.
So thank you to all of our speakers today. We're now ready to take questions from the audience in the room. Please raise your hand and wait for a microphone to be brought to you, and then please state your name and affiliation. So let's get started.
Good morning. Doug Money, Space IT Bridge. My question is to Dale. The last time there was a mishap at Wallops, there was some issues of liability. Now, that picture's gotten complicated because you've got two different commercial launch providers on Virginia Space. I guess my question is if you could talk about this, because last time it happened, state of Virginia kind of got stuck with part of the bill.
We have, is this on? Okay. We have worked through all of that to the satisfaction of the governor, the attorney general, the launch providers, whether it's Rocket Lab or Northrop Grumman, and it's very clearly defined. It's easier if it's, many of these launches are government launches, so you have indemnification, which makes it easier. If it's not, we have that squared away, I believe, with the satisfaction of the Attorney General's office and the Governor's office. So.
Thank you, Tarek Malik with Space.com. For Peter, you mentioned that the Rocket Lab team was proud to have a U.S. launch vehicle here at U.S. soil. I'm wondering what advantage it does give Rocket Lab to have not just a second launch site, but one in the United States, and how you kind of see that split between LC-1 and LC-2 on missions. I mean, what are the criteria on deciding which flies from where, that sort of thing? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, LC2 gives us the capability to support directly a wide variety of government and commercial missions. The launch site has primarily been designed to support government missions with additional security and capabilities. But LC1 will remain the high volume launch site for majority of commercial missions. But LC2 is most certainly. I think you've heard a common theme through a number of these speeches. Is we're ready to support on a call-up basis at a drop of notice for the nation's requirements.
Hi there, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. I have a question. There's a couple people mentioning upgrades to this particular pad and particular infrastructure. So what differs, I guess, what lessons did you learn from building LC1 to now building LC2, and what are upgrades, et cetera, et cetera? Just kind of tell us what you learned and what's changed.
Sure. Primarily, we were looking to incorporate a lot of lessons learned. So a lot of things after we put together LC1 became quite apparent was hard to go back and access. So we've focused a lot on maintainability, operability, being able to turn around a pad a lot quicker. That's been our focus. But fundamentally, I must say that not a whole lot's changed. So we got most things right in LC1.
Hi, Doug Money again. I'd like to direct this to Lieutenant Colonel Thrush. There's been several drops of responsive space. Is there a specific requirement or timetable where you'll be able to call Rocket Labs on hour 0 and they'll be able to launch within 2 weeks? Or is there, or is this going to be an issue of you drop a request to launch, and this is some number of months? Is there? Can you frame the timetable there? Number one, and number two is that part of being able to launch in a responsive fashion implies that you're going to have payloads. Is it possible for you to talk about if there will be like pre-positioned payloads that you might have here at Wallops in order to launch in a responsive fashion?
Thank you, sir. Great question. So from the launch enterprise perspective, we're looking at exactly all of those pieces. So we look at the idea of the possible, the art of the possible. So can we do it in 2 weeks? As you said, can we do it in 24 hours? And then what are those constraints? Part of the rocket system launch program's objectives are to flesh out those through various activities or challenges. DARPA's also got a similar challenge where they're trying to do other assets. So the holistic focus is on how do we do it faster, and then we kind of set that extreme goal of not immediate but near immediate, and then we work back into what's the actual reality. And as we learn those lessons learned, hopefully, and iterate upon it, we can get better and better.
Thank you, Tarek Malik. Again, I think for Sean, you mentioned the ability of having multiple launch vehicles here at the one time. I'm wondering, is that 3? Is it 5? And what's your logistical process for bringing them from the factory in Huntington Beach over here? I'm wondering how that whole process has been laid out, because it seems like it would be a very different process than for New Zealand. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess to start with the numbers, we're looking up to 4. The ICF, as it gets constructed, will have 2, and we'll have carved out the space for 2 more that'll come in short order. So that's capacity-wise. In terms of logistics, yes, that's a little different to the way we do it from New Zealand. First few launches, we'll be shipping over stages over from New Zealand, so there'll be some ship transport and some road transport. And as we bring more of that production process to Huntington Beach, we can start looking and exploring some of those options with surface transport again. So back to road transport, which we're pretty well set up for as it stands. So other than the durations of time being slightly stretched, everything else effectively remains the same. Electron's very appropriately sized that it can fit inside shipping containers, so it respects a lot of common dimensions that can be supported with very standard transport solutions, regardless of where you're at.
Any other questions? So thank you, everyone. That's all the time we have for today, and we've answered all the questions out in the room. So this concludes our press conference for the pad opening for LC2. I'd like to thank our speakers and everyone here in the auditorium. You are now invited to join us for a tour of Launch Complex 2 and a pad opening ceremony. So thank you for coming. Content from today's pad opening will be available on Rocket Lab's social media channels in the coming days. Thank you again for joining us, and have a